Tonight, in the clubhouse, we review the weekend's autumn internationals. How are you, Chris? All right?
I'm fine, thanks. Yourself?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
A bit cheesed off about England's performances, though. Still, the rugby front. England chalked up their first win in 5 games, actually, Chris, this weekend with a 28-9 win over Samoa. However, it wasn't a great England performance, with this much vaunted England side being unable to score for the last half an hour of the game. One bright note was the performance of young Bath fly-half George Ford, who has been the in-form fly-half in the Aviva Premiership this season, which with many good judges saying that he should have played in all of the 4 England Autumn Internationals against New Zealand, against South Africa, Samoa and Australia next week, in preference to Owen Farrell, who started the games at this game at inside centre. The jury is still out as to whether this move for Farrell to inside centres worked for England. For me, if I was selecting an England side to beat the Aussies and the Welsh next autumn in the World Cup group, the group of death, as the Football World Cup often calls it, and this is really a group of death for England, Wales and Australia, because one of them isn't going to go through. And if it's England in their own home World Cup, there'll be hell to pay, I'm sure. But for me, I'd always have Manu Tuilagi in the side, because he's just got that X factor, I think. And I wouldn't play Owen Farrell. I'd play Luther Burrell or Billy Twelvetrees. Billy Twelvetrees came on Saturday. He seems to be back in the fold. But for me, Luther Burrell is the go-to man at inside centre for England, with Manu Tuilagi on the outside. So that's the 2 centres I'd pick, and I would pick George Ford at fly-half, because certainly at the moment he is the in-form fly-half in England, better than Owen Farrell, Danny Cipriani, Stephen Milo returned to the game on Saturday for Northampton Saints. But as I say, Luther Burrell and Manu Tuilagi be my 2 centres, and they work quite well in the summer in New Zealand. And although Tuilagi's fitness leaves something a bit of a cause for concern, because he missed most of the Six Nations last winter, and also he's now not played in any of the autumn internationals this autumn. So yeah, it's a bit of a worry is Manu's fitness, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, George Ford did play rather well on Saturday, as I say, when he was given his chance, his full England debut. One bit of skill was absolutely brilliant. He actually chipped the ball into the arms of the winger, Anthony Watson, who stepped inside and gave a nice offload to Mike Brown on the inside, who scored a try for England. And that was a lovely piece of skill from George Ford. And it was a lovely touch for which we wouldn't see from Owen Farrell, I don't think. And many good rugby judges have said that George Ford is too small for international rugby. He's not that tall. He's quite slight.
There are some quite short players. I mean, there's got to be benefits sometimes. It depends on what position you play.
Yeah, well, scrum half is always the one player position that was always touted as being for the smaller people who play rugby, and fly half to some extent. But George Ford acquitted himself well, because he was absolutely battered by one tackle by Johnny Leota, the head-hunting Samoan centre, who put in a throat-high tackle, and as I say, the over-physical Samoans obviously targeted Ford for rough treatment. And as I say, one neck-high tackle by Johnny Leota, which earned the Samoan a yellow card, shook Ford to his bootstraps, but he got up and carried on regardless, beating backs and kicking his goals with 3 penalties and 2 conversions to give him 13 points in the game on his full debut. Anyway, enough of England.
Yeah.
Enough.
Enough is enough.
Well, I see the England footballers are doing well anyway, but the women footballers didn't do too grandly yesterday, did they?
No, good crowd, but unfortunately,
45,000, Karen Carney making 100 appearances as well. Well done, Karen.
But it just goes to show how far ahead. I mean, it is in Germany. I mean, they've been playing it for a lot longer, and
I couldn't believe, Chris. This absolutely astonished me. The FA banned women's football from 1921 to 1971.
They did, yeah, and at its popularity as well.
I know, they used to get bigger crowds.
Playing in front of like 50,000, 60,000 people.
But how were they allowed to get away with that?
I don't know. It's crazy. And then it just sort of disappeared, and
My sister played a bit in the 70s, but as you say, it was banned until 71, which is absolutely scandalous.
It is strange, isn't it?
But, obviously the FA thinks that the women's place is in the home, Chris, which I don't agree with, but I think equality for all, in my opinion. But, yes, England have generally flattered to deceive this autumn, and they need to beat Australia next Saturday at Twickenham to get a 6 out of 10 for me. If they don't, I think it'll be a 3 out of 10 for if they do lose to Australia for this autumn's international. Now, what about the Welsh?
What about them?
Well, you might ask, what about the Welsh?
What about the Welsh?
As you know, Chris, rugby is in their blood.
Yep.
It's their national game. They played New Zealand on Saturday, and the nation was rapt, waiting for the All Blacks to turn up at the Millennium Stadium, that shrine to Welsh rugby. And the sad fact is that the Welsh have not beaten New Zealand since 1953. Can you believe that, Chris? 1953, when I was still a twinkle in my dad's eye. And I see you were as well.
I was still a twinkle in your dad's eye.
I did see the picture of you on Father Christmas's Day on Facebook. That was rather sweet.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you went to Lewis's as well, did you?
I did, yeah. And they were talking about that on WM today, about Lewis's and things.
Were they?
Yeah.
Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you remember queuing up all them blooming stairs?
Oh, crikey, yeah.
We were so excited,
and
weren't we?
Down the street, didn't it? And everything, the queue and that.
Did you ever get to Grays as well?
I didn't know, that was just before, wasn't it? That was a bit early, wasn't it, Grays? Yeah. You either went to Grays or you went to Lewis's, depending on how posh you were.
We went to Lewis's. Well, Rackham's was the really posh one.
Rackham's,
yeah. Rackham's. Now, this will interest you. Two Towers Brewery do a Rackham's Premium Ale. Did you know that? It's spelled BAJKACKER. Ackhams, ACKHAMS. Rackham's. That means a lot to us Brummies.
Yeah. Talking about Davenport, remember that? Up on where the hospital is now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I drive past it every day on my way into work. Yes.
Always remember that.
Beer at home means Davenport.
Beer at home means Davenport.
That's the beer. Lots of cheer.
It's finest brewery to your home. Why collect? We'll deliver.
Brilliant.
Soon you'll know why we're...
Folks all say beer at home means Davenport.
It's all come back to me now.
It's all come back. Waxing lyrical about how you... Excuse me. Yeah, so, back to the rugby. After that brief interlude into Birmingham's past. At this point, I want to inject a note of sobriety, and I must say that I did listen to Radio WM's fantastic documentary about the Birmingham pub bombings on Friday night. It was ever so good, and it really evoked memories for me as a 16-year-old in Birmingham that night. I remember where I was and exactly what happened, and I must give a mention to my erstwhile rugby playing colleague John Tallis, who was featured in that documentary. He was actually the West Midlands policeman who found the bomb on the Hagley Road, the third bomb, as it was called, and he defused it, actually.
And then it disappeared?
And then it disappeared, yes, indeed. So John's not been very well recently, so I'd like to give John a big shout out, and we need more policemen like you, John, and well done.
Of course, there is talk of a fourth bomb now. That sort of
was there? Where was that?
Well, some seem to believe that there was another bomb planted in the tavern.
Really?
Which sort of disappeared as well.
Years later, I used to work in Keenwood House, which was above the tavern in the town, or the Yard of Ale as it became, and we used to go for a drink in there, and it always struck. That was in the 1979 when I went there for drinks, and it always brought back terrible memories for me of the Birmingham pub bombings. But we must remember the 21 anyway.
Oh, yes.
Justice for the 21. That's what.
Yeah, if anybody's got a chance to listen to our shows, we did 2 specials on Friday as well.
Did you?
We did, yeah. One was Brian and Julie, in their words.
Hambleton,
They're the organisers of the. That was on for an hour, and then we did a special show which was in memory of the 21, which was the concert that was held on Thursday night.
Oh, brilliant! At the Town Hall.
Yeah. Carl Chin, Jasper Carrot, and so forth and so forth.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah. And we got loads of interviews, and that's available to listen to.
Is that on Spreaker? I'll give that a listen.
It's a really good listen. Yeah, you're very. You'll find it very interesting.
Thank you.
Good
Chris.
stuff in that.
Anyway, back to my show. After plugging you all on Sundry Radio WM and our other shows on Sports Radio Birmingham, give them a listen. We must not forget the Birmingham 21.
No.
Anyway, Wales played New Zealand on Saturday, as I say, and they haven't beaten the All Blacks since 1953. 61 years of hurt. And it's the proud Welsh nation was really looking forward to this game, much as England rugby fans were looking forward to the game against the All Blacks earlier in the autumn series. And the Principality, where rugby is a national sport and rugby players are gods, was all looking forward to seeing how the Welsh did against the best team in the world, the All Blacks. Hopes were high. They had their best team out with new scrum half Rhys Webb sniping around the fringes, and he was in the side, and they had a gargantuan. He was setting off a gargantuan backline for Wales with Webb, Dan Biggar, Jonathan Davis, not the Jonathan Davis, Jiffy as he was known. This is another Jonathan Davis, George North, Alex Cuthbert, and the impeccable Jamie Roberts, Desperate Dan as I like to call him, because he looks a bit like Desperate Dan on the park. And in the pack, now this will interest you, Chris. There was a prop called Samson Lee. Can you imagine that?
Samson Lee?
Prop called Samson.
Samson,
the strongest man in the world. So if he was ever meant to be a prop, that was the name they gave him, Samson Lee. With a name like that, he was born to be a prop. On the bombshell, Richard Hibbard, the British Lion, who looks more like a rock star than a rugby player, with long blonde locks and hair and more tattoos than a Royal Navy stoker. So, and I actually saw him on my trip to Gloucester last Friday night when I got lost to Gloucester.
You got lost.
Got lost in Gloucester. I did. There was a bit of a glitch for Richard Hibbard earlier this autumn series when he turned out for Gloucester against Harlequins, the game I saw when I got lost on the M5. Well, not on the M5 because the M5 was shut, but on the way back, which I took via Evesham and Redditch, which was not recommended. It took us until 12:30 to get home from a 7:45 kick-off.
What a journey.
What a journey that was, indeed. The worst drive of my life, Chris. I'm not the greatest driver in the world, and I'll admit that, but I hated it. It was horrible. But my son, thank you, Adam, for sorting me out that night. You were very calm and everything, mate. What would you have done without your GPS on your iPhone? Anyway, as I say, Richard Hibbard looks more like a rock star than a rugby player, but he blotted his copybook by turning out for Gloucester in a Aviva Premiership game a couple of weeks ago, and but it was all smoothed over, and as he's too valuable a player to be left on the bench, kicking his heels in the back in the bench, and he makes big hits. Big hits, that is, Chris. Big hits.
Of course, yeah. No,
well, he's got big hits as well, actually, but I think they're quite muscular hits. Yeah, and he didn't disappoint on Saturday with several sizable, huge hits against the All Blacks. The All Blacks are just about the best in the world, as I say. Richie McCaw, Jim Laird, what a pirate's name, eh? But he's a bit of a pirate on the deck, pinching the ball from a lot of opposing flankers with
Pardon?
Flankers.
Oh, sorry.
Flankers, Chris. Flankers.
I thought it upset you for a second.
Not another word you might have thought I was saying. No, flankers. I can say that. Flankers. But Richie McCaw is probably the best open side flanker there's ever been, in my opinion. and he's also probably the best All Black as well, the most famous All Black certainly. And he was captaining New Zealand for a record 100th time in his 120 plus caps. Brian O'Driscoll, who retired last year, holds the record of international caps with 139 appearances, and I would think that Richie McCaw will eclipse that eventually. But he's played in a more physical position than Brian O'Driscoll. He's at the coalface, putting his body on the line every game. The man is an absolute legend, and he's also such a tough as teak man that he's, as I say, he's probably the greatest All Black of all time, and possibly the greatest rugby player of all time. And I know that's a big statement to make, Chris, but for me, yes, for that longevity, really. I mean, he's been playing for 12 years now, Richie McCaw, 120 odd caps, and say in that difficult position as an open side flanker, getting his body over the ball, getting the SH1 stuff kicked out of him by other flankers and other players. And out of this says it all for me, really. Out of those 100 caps as captain, would you believe he's been on the winning side 89 times?
Really? 89?
89 times out of 100 caps. Can you believe that? Isn't that a great record? He must get a mention as possibly one of the greatest captains in any sport of all time as well. And that percentage of success must give him that accolade as possibly the greatest captain ever. Certainly the greatest All Black rugby captain ever. But the All Blacks don't expect to lose when they go onto the field. And as I say, it was Wales who held the lead at half time in the All Blacks game on Saturday, and they were. It was a close game, and the Welsh defence had held firm, and they were very, very physical, the Welsh, and they got in the All Blacks' faces, and then sadly in the last 10 minutes the Welsh tired, and after defending like demons for most of the game, the All Blacks struck the killer blow with 10 minutes left, with Bowden Barrett, my favourite named rugby player, who sounds like a Mississippi showboat gambler, taking the All Blacks, taking the ace in the hole, and who chipped the ball over he was on the right wing and chipped the ball over the winger, and luckily the bounce shot up for him, and he grabbed the ball just in front of Lee Halfpenny, and scored a try under the post, with the Welsh absolutely bereft and out of breath, and absolutely banjaxed by this try with 10 minutes to go, having led up until that point 16-15.
Another good name there, Halfpenny.
Lee Halfpenny, yeah, it's a lovely name, isn't it? He's a very good player, is Lee Halfpenny. Best kicking fullback in the world game. And but he's had a bit of misfortune, actually. He's just come back from Toulon. He'd signed for Toulon, the French double Heineken Cup champions, and they haven't rated him at all. He's been injured most of the time, and he's not been playing much rugby for too long. He's come back to Wales, and
maybe he's been there too long.
Nice one, Chris. I like your style, mate. You're quick off the mark with
that.
Set
him off. I'll knock him down.
Yeah, he was. As I say, Bowden Barrett was under the sticks, converting his own try. 3 minutes later, that was on 69 minutes. On 72 minutes, he repeated the lesson and scored wide out on the left. And then then the real coup de grace, 3 tries in 10 minutes. The best number 8 in the world, Kieran Reid, charged down a Mike Phillips box kick. That's not a kick in the box, that's a box kick. Which is a kick by the scrum half over the scrum or the line out into the box behind. Right. Not a kick in the box. Just make that. Thank you. I'm not allowed to. What's that?
That rings a bell.
That rings a bell. It does, doesn't it? Yeah. So Kieran Reid scored the try in the last couple of minutes, and that was it for the Welsh. From being 16-15 up in the lead with 11 minutes to go, they lost the game 34-16, and they'd lost the game totally in the last 10 minutes. New Zealand absolutely brilliant in that period. They took their chances. They saw that the Welsh were out on their feet, having defended for most of the game, And it's games like this that gets New Zealand that epithet as the epithet. Can I say that? Epithet.
You've got to have some big words tonight.
I swallowed a dictionary. I've been in the library, Birmingham, Chris. That's where I go.
The wonderful Birmingham Library.
Absolutely.
It looks awful from the outside.
Well, it looks like rusty old bike wheels, doesn't it? Really.
I don't know what it looks like.
I took some photographs actually from the fourth floor balcony and secret garden. It was rather nice actually.
I think it depends on
the Ferris wheel.
Some people like. Everybody's got their own.
Books. I do like books. So
I couldn't eat a whole one.
No. Yeah, so on to the form team, the British team, I suppose, British Isles team. No, they had to be called British. The Irish team. They scored another victory over one of the Southern Hemisphere giants on Saturday. In the start of the autumn series, they beat the South Africans 29-15, and then had an easy 40-point plus thrashing of Georgia with a second 15. Their first 15 resumed the fray and ran out 26-23 winners over Australia on Saturday. They went in at half-time 17-5 up and really blew the Australians away in the first 20 minutes with 3 tries. But they had to withstand a great Australian comeback. And they just edged it 26-23 with another imperious display from Johnny Sexton by all accounts, who's the British Lions fly-half. He's the form player of these autumn series. And this has all been achieved with a huge injury list, with 17 players out. And, fair play to the Irish. They must be favourites for the Six Nations Championship coming up in January, February and March. And, they've beaten 2 of the Southern Hemisphere giants. They're not playing New Zealand. They've finished their autumn series now, the Irish. And the New Zealanders have gone home. It's next weekend. We got Australia against England, and as I say, I must admit I'm not looking forward to that one. I think the Aussies under their new coach Michael Checker, the old enemy, the Ashes and all that.
It's not looking good, is it?
It's not in our home World Cup, but it's still 11 months to go. Things can change.
Yeah.
But we just can't beat these Southern Hemisphere giants of South Africa and New Zealand, and we'll see about Australia on Saturday. Now, I mentioned that Ireland had a huge injury list with 17 players out.
17.
Now, would you believe their coach as well was taken ill with appendicitis?
Oh, no.
And he took one for the team, actually, because he got through. He's on the touchline. He was in absolute agony with Joe Schmidt, who's a New Zealander, would you believe? Tough as teeth. A lot of New Zealand coaches in the Northern Hemisphere now. Vern Cotter, New Zealand, coach of Scotland. Joe Schmidt, coach of Ireland, another New Zealander. And as I say, he's now in hospital recuperating from having his appendix out, Joe Schmidt. So he took one for the team and absolutely waited until after the game was over to go to hospital and get himself sorted out. So fair play to you, Joe Schmidt. Well done, mate.
Dropped the ball in the Schmidt.
Couldn't see Roy Hodgson doing that.
No, not really.
No. Yeah. Couldn't see Roy Hodgson. They're tough as teeth, though, these old rugby players, aren't they?
That's right, yeah. Do it for love, don't they?
They do. Well, they don't do it for money, that's for certain.
No.
There's no money in rugby.
No.
But, and again, Scotland have had a good autumn series. They just about lost to New Zealand last weekend. And but they haven't played South Africa. They beat Tonga 37-12 on Saturday. But this was an upset of a result. The French confounded their fans again with a 13-18 loss to Argentina. After beating the Australians, the French are back to square one with a loss to Argentina, who are a lowly ranked side at the moment. They're not one of the better sides, but poor old French rugby fans, they don't know whether to stick or twist, I don't think, Chris, because the French are flattered to deceive, and they absolutely deceived their fans on Saturday, because as I say, they lost 13-18. And this was an interesting game because there were 3 drop goals in that game by the Argentine fly half, Sanchez, and you don't often get 3 drop goals in a game, but so fair play to Argies. They beat France in the Stade de France on Saturday night at 8 p.m. late kick-off, because some of the kick-offs in the Rugby World Cup will be later, and the teams are trying to get acclimatised to that. So, yeah, well played the Argentinians, and well done to them for beating France 18-13 on Saturday night. Now, to matters parochial and local. In the Aviva Premiership, Northampton Saints defeated Saracens 31-24 at Allianz Park to go top of the table, and they pipped Exeter, who were top of the table on Saturday night, because Northampton played Saracens on Sunday. Exeter have gone great guns. They were a championship side 4 years ago, playing the club, my club Moseley, in the championship, the second tier of English rugby, and now they've gone to great things. And as I say, they've actually topped the Aviva Premiership for a brief period of 12 hours on Saturday night, which is a great achievement for what was a small club, Exeter, but they well run. They borrowed money, but they built a nice new ground at Sandy Park above the M5 at Junction 30. And it's a lovely ground to go and watch rugby.
That was purpose-built for rugby.
Yes, it's a rugby ground.
They're not sharing it, or it's not.
No.
It's not a part complex.
Well, of course, as I've mentioned to you before, Chris, the southwest of England is a real hotbed of rugby. And Exeter have had a team for many, many years. You know, one of the oldest rugby teams. I think they were founded in the 1860s. But they were always the Cinderella team in the southwest. It's always, of course, Bath, Bristol, and Gloucester. Those three giants, and then we got the Cornish Pirates, who scored 66 points on Saturday, 66-14 win over Bedford. Bedford Blues. Yes, they
Bedford, Northampton, up our way, you mean?
Yeah,
Bedworth.
That was probably no, not Bedworth. Bedford.
Oh, Bedford. I think it said Bedworth.
Near Northampton.
Oh, right, is it?
Bedford. You know Bedford.
Yeah.
Bedford.
Yeah.
Where the Bedford van was from.
Oh, right, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a hotbed of rugby, like Northampton. Well, Bedford hasn't got a football team, let's face it, have they? Have you heard of Bedford Athletic or Bedford United?
No.
Bedford
I get mixed
Town.
up with Bedworth.
Bedworth is just in Warwickshire, isn't it? Near
Nuneaton.
Yeah. Actually, the Bedworth is a great town for celebrating the armistice. They have their own parade, and they have done for many, many years since the end of the First World War. And fair play to you, Bedworth. Well done on commemorating our war dead, and great to see that happening in Bedworth. And
brilliant.
Big shout out to Bedworth, great town in Warwickshire. Yeah, so the Cornish Pirates beat the Bedford 66-14 on Saturday. And so back to the Premiership. Exeter, as I say, beat the Wasps 31-15 at Sandy Park, and as I say, we're top of the table for a brief period. And Bath continued to be in the top four with a 33-23 win over London Irish. London Welsh still have to get a win, losing 26-5 at the Kassam Stadium in Oxford. Imagine that, London Welsh playing in Oxford. Doesn't really ring true. It's not right. It's not right. But they've identified the city of Oxford as a hotbed of rugby with all the students and the Oxford University rugby club team, but I'm not so sure whether that experiment's worked really, Chris, because the London Welsh have a proud tradition at Old Deer Park in next to Twickenham Stadium there. Mervyn Davis, Merv the Swerve, JPR Williams, Gerald Davis, all these great Welsh players in the 70s played for them. And hello, GA. Creaking. Is that your bones?
That might be his back, actually. He's got a bad back.
Welcome to GA. Welcome to the show, GA, and you're welcome to it as well. Thank you. It's a bit parky tonight, and you're looking a bit chilly, mate.
It's a bit cold here.
Get.
No, don't say it. I don't know what you're going to say, but don't say it.
Get your covers on your cars, and because I've got a nice little cover for my little Nissan Micra, actually.
Oh, right.
Covers the windscreens of trees.
Is yours the old type, the very round one, or the next one that was?
No, it was the very, very old one. It's 16 years old, my car.
Oh, right. That's the one that my wife had. Yeah, she had one of those. Yeah,
very great car.
Loved it.
Oh, it's never let me down, mate.
No.
Never let me down. Brilliant car. 16 years old, so first registered 1998.
Yeah, that's
brilliant. And I paid $5,000 for it, and it doesn't owe me a penny. So there you go. Back to the rugby. Yeah, it looks as though London Welsh are doomed already. Doomed. as Private Fraser would say. Did you know they're making a film of that time?
They are a new one, aren't you? I know,
With Bill Nye as Sergeant Wilson.
Sometimes I just think that maybe they should
leave
things alone. I don't know.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Gio?
I think I agree. You can't recreate magic.
You can't, no. And it still makes me laugh now when I watch them.
Oh, I watch it on a Saturday night.
It still makes me laugh.
It is brilliant.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Whatever happened to It Ain't Half Up, Mum?
Oh no, yeah.
Why did they show that?
Politically correct. That's why they.
That was of the same ilk. It wasn't quite as funny.
Yeah.
I mean, a character-driven comedy around the Second World War, but
yeah.
I presume they won't show it because it doesn't. Not PC really, is it for BBC?
Like Love Thy Neighbour and things like that.
Well, that was even worse.
There were some bad ones in the 70s, wasn't there? Some good ones, but there were some bad ones.
I can hear the music.
They're coming for you.
They're coming for me. They're coming to take me away. Anyway, yes, so thank you very much for listening, and as I say, we'll see you all next week on In the Clubhouse, my rugby show on Sports Radio Birmingham. Good night, John Boy.
Good night.
Good night, Grandpa.
Good night.